about the technical hitch there. John, welcome. I'm sorry about that. That was been well stressful.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
You are officially our first guest on this talkathon. So yeah, welcome. We do, annoyingly, we do have most of the interviews can kind of drift on, but we've got a UCB interview on their radio show at 11:40.
Okay.
So we've probably got about 15 minutes to chat. 15, 20 minutes to chat. So yeah, let's go for it. And we'd love to hear a bit about your story. So you seem to be a man that wears many hats. I mean, you're wearing one at the moment, so pun intended. But I would love to hear a little bit about you, what it is that you do, what's occupying your time, and a little bit about the different things that you're involved in.
Awesome. So I'm heavily involved with loads of different things. I was in church at the weekend and there was a message. We had a guest speaker come in and was talking about your function and your purpose, and about how some people get out of bed and they work, get money, pay the bills and function, and some other people then have to fulfill that with purpose because the job doesn't fulfill that purpose, right? So I've always been a person that, fortunate or unfortunately, I move towards I have to do purpose, because otherwise I don't feel mentally fulfilled, and I can feel that, right? So when I was heavily involved with the church for a very long time in-house, but I felt called as an evangelist to go outside of the church and help. So I started looking at what's in my hands. So I was put in a WhatsApp group in the middle of COVID with some celebrity boxers.
Yeah.
And then I realized that the ex-celebrity boxers are really struggling. Some are alcoholics, some are homeless, some are really struggling with depression. And some of the things that I've gone through in church and learned in church, I realized I had a calling to like pastor on them.
Yeah.
So we set up a podcast about 18 months ago, which is just growing and growing each single week. And now there's not a boxer that I can't get in front of. Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, all the top promoters, I'm around them every week, every day. There's communication with them. So I'm moving towards thinking, how can now get to a situation? Do I open a charity? Do I get to a situation where I can help them more? Because me and my business partner and a couple of other people, goodness of a heart, we're doing a lot of hands-on work with them. Like there was one person recently who was a former world champion who was begging on the streets of London.
Wow.
From the heights of walking out in front of 70,000 people to begging for money.
Yeah, and can you tell us a bit about why that is? So why people struggle, and some of the themes that you've noticed in the people you work with, the people you chat to, about the similarities there, about their stories, and kind of why they end up in such desperate states from the heights of where they've been.
Yeah, as a fighter, you have to have a large ego. You have to be one of the best liars in the world as well, because to walk in front of a crowd, you have to lie to yourself, because you have to walk in front of a crowd and say you're not scared when you're terrified. It wouldn't matter if you had a 6-year-old kid waiting in the ring, you're still going to be nervous because you walk in front of 90,000 people. But you have to lie to yourself that you're not. And then for 3 months, imagine you have the confrontation with someone, and most people would just do it there and then. But then they said, no, hold. There's going to be 12 press conferences, and then you guys are going to see each other constantly for 12 weeks, and you're going to have to build all that anxiety into you. And then you're going to go out on one night, and then the endorphins are going to be lit, and then you're going to be made to feel like a god because all these people are cheering your name.
Yeah.
Career's over, and you go back to normality, which you never knew what normal it was.
Yeah.
You don't have any education, you don't have any qualifications, because boxing took so much from you.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're in Sainsbury's, and some managers talking to you like dirt.
Nobody. Yeah.
They cannot adjust. They're being told for 30, 40 years of their career to be reactive, submissive. So I always make a joke saying that for 30 years of my boxing career, I learned the art of aggression, and then I got married and learned the art of submission in 1 year. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what marriage will do, right? So they have to learn that art of submission, and some of them, that's a real struggle to have that come down. So when I'm talking to them, they say that the closest feeling they have for a minimal of a second is to be high on alcohol, to be high on drugs, to get that rush. All right. So then that's a downward spiral, because they have no education, and then they're trying to drink alcohol and things to fill that gap, and then they lose everyone around them, and before they know it, and only people can really understand them is ex-fighters, because normal people can't understand it. Imagine a soldier coming back from war and what they see and what they go through. It's similar in a different way. You understand what I mean? Trying to fit into society. And so we found that we have a lot of work to do to help them understand that they have transferable skills. It's not over. It's the next chapter. Me, even in my career, I was ripped off for millions of pounds, tried to commit suicide twice, found God. Then the church and Christ and everything give me fulfillment. Then I realized there's more purpose out there. I've come full circle on it, and then I'm like, now I can get in front of them and say to them, I've done it. There's more to this. There's more to this journey.
Yeah, and just to hear a bit more about your own personal story, John. Like, what led you to that point, and kind of how did you feel like you were able to talk about your mental health much? Were there people around you asking, noticing, and kind of what was the change point in that?
Nah, not really. Like, the change point for me was I was on. I'm going to go into a long story now. The change point for me, I was on.
10 minutes, fine.
I was before Christ, BC, a womanizer, and I was going out looking for sex for like the wrong reasons, pleasure. And then my wife accidentally was in a thing called "Are You Interested" on Facebook, and she's my wife's from Bali. So I've been married 14 years now, and then accidentally she came into that group, and we were talking, and it took about 2 weeks to realize actually she's not that group, and we were talking, and it took about 2 weeks to realize actually she's not from Leeds, and then she evangelized to me. She was telling me about the love of Christ, and I was like telling her what I knew about the Bible, and long story short, we got to a situation where we both fell in love with each other, and then after about 9 months, I went out to Indonesia, got engaged after 4 days of meeting in person.
Amazing.
I went through the immigration case, which was one of the hardest things that I went through. And within 18 months, we was married, and that's 14 years have passed now. Wow. And that was understanding the love of Christ that I learned, and then the love of my wife that I learned in the flesh. Made me realize, wow, all these things that I went through in boxing, it's all a joke. It was just a circus act. But being so close in boxing to the pinnacle of being I've trained with 8 world champions, and I've been around all the celebrity boxers, and now I'm back around them, but I'm back around them in a different way. I'm back around them to tell them that after boxing, there's a next chapter, and you need to start planning for it now.
Yeah.
This is in my era, we didn't have that. So a lot of these ex-fighters ended up with nothing because promoters, managers, leeches, hangers-on, yes men, all stole from them. And then when there's nothing left, there's nothing left.
Mm-hmm. And so what happened in that lowest moment for you?
The lowest moment for me was knowing that I should have been a world champion. I should have been walking down the street and everyone know my name. I want to be with my wife now. I'd probably be sat in Beverly Hills with a Ferrari if everything would have gone the way it should have gone. But I wouldn't mean fulfilled. So when I came out of boxing at the lowest time, for me it was like shame, guilt, disappointment, no one understanding me, aggression, snappiness, moodiness, ups and downs. I was very confused. I didn't want to know what I wanted for my life, where I wanted my life to go. And my wife came at the right time. You know, I thought angels are 8 foot tall, but God sent me like a 5'1" angel into my life at the right time, and it just changed the direction of my life. But some other people, they don't necessarily get the same. The timing was perfect. I was at my lowest point. I remember picking up a knife, and this was the 3rd time I was going to try, and I was going to kill myself. And I got myself drunk to do it, and I couldn't do it. And then the day after, I met my wife, and then my life changed instantly. But I remember being on my hands and knees when I was drunk, crying, saying, "Take this pain away from me. I don't want to live no more. I don't want this. I can't live with this." And then the day after, my prayer was answered. It's so weird how it all come to pass.
That's an incredible story, John. And yeah, talking about the boxers that you've been working with and the people that are just at their lowest points, and the work that it's involved there. Could you talk to us a little bit about what you do with them, and how you change that around for them, and how you what you do to change their outlook on life?
So with boxers, we are proper alpha men.
Yeah.
Proper alpha men. Like, we're not like you see some men in society get aggressive and all the rest. We don't do that type of stuff. We are disciplined enough to know that's not the right reaction. But we're also, our kindness can be checked for weakness, and then you won't see it coming. They'll just make a decision on a spot moment, right? I've had enough. And then there's no going backwards with them, right?
Yeah.
So make a decision, they're going to do it. So what I have to do is get in front of them. They know me, they respect me, they respect my business partner. We come from the same journey. We understand the same. We understand what they've gone through, what they've been through, and then we get in front of them. We can have a really, really, really not. I won't want to use the word harsh, but we can really just like listen, sit down,
yeah,
and listen to what I've got to say to you.
Yeah.
You'll always be a fighter. We know what we've been through. Other people won't understand what we've been through. And then we have to like get to they're very sensitive boxers. Like, to walk out in front of a crowd, you have to have a lot of heart.
Yeah.
And like, if you get around any kind of fighter, they either believe in God. 99% of men believe in God. What box or fight? I've never met a non-believing fighter. There's always something.
That's so interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
The closest I've ever felt to God was not in worship in church. The closest I've ever felt to God is walking out in front of a crowd.
Yeah.
I'm completely helpless. I'm like, please get me through this situation. I don't want to be here. I'm smiling, but I don't want to be there. I'm like, I want the floor to open, or someone tell me.
And some of those feelings that you're describing around, like the fear, and you were saying at the beginning that the boxers have to have ego, so they have to learn to suppress those feelings.
Yeah.
Is it then common that as a boxer you just don't talk about your emotions, even though you're quite, by the sounds of it, incredibly emotive individuals, and you're driven by emotion, and that's why you're doing what you're doing, and yet you're simultaneously having to completely repress it, which must be really confusing. And then when they then come out the other side of that and they finish their boxing career, do they have people around them asking them how they are? Like, is that part of what they're surrounded by, or are they just
not really? Like, so the ones that make it, I use an example, Ricky Hatton or Amir Khan. I have a saying that I should get patented because they love it in boxing. I say boxing's about stability, not ability.
Yeah.
The boxer, all the fighters that make it have a stable environment.
Yeah.
But finding people to be around you, because you all got like borderline disorder. You all got a dysfunction. Like, my wife will tell you, I'm the female in the house, she's the man in the house. Like, boxers are more like females. We're really sensitive creatures. All right. She's laughing in the background because she knows, right? All of them are the same. So when we get around each other and the cameras and lights not there, they'll cry, they'll open up, they'll really open up in front of boxers. They'll want a hug, they'll want to be told they're loved and this, that, and the other. As soon as someone comes to the room who's not a boxer, it's like, so they can't show you that thing. So we feel blessed that we can get around ex-fighters and they just respect us. We'll go in the room and we can have open conversations. Yeah. And you could be a really big celebrity who really, the media's on them, everything's on them. Because we deal with active fighters and we also do with fighters from the past. And they'll come in and they're like, can I just talk to you? And then like everyone gets shut out of the room and they just cry. And then everyone come back in and they're just like this, I'm ready to fight. It's very turbulent from one emotion to the next emotion. There's a lot of repression of emotions.
Yeah. So thinking about all that, John, because we've probably got just another couple of minutes left. Is there anything that you think from because you're obviously involved in the church world as well, by the sounds of it. Is there anything that you think we could be doing to just create a more open environment for men to be talking about their mental health? Like, are there any top tips, things that we shouldn't be doing?
This is something I should have mentioned at the start of the conversation. That was a really, really good question. So when I was in the church, not that the church gave me a title, but I was the men's minister, because I put a WhatsApp group and got 300 men into a WhatsApp group, and I led it for 2 years at North Church in Leeds, right? And the men do not come into worship. This is what I found out, because I understand men. They do not come into worship, put their hands out, and straight away, like women, just fall into it. I used to say to the men when you go in, because I used to see the men glancing at women in worship, I used to turn around and say, you need to close your eyes and go into worship. The things that you're struggling with, get rid of them. Like everything you're struggling with when you're in worship, get rid of them. Then in the WhatsApp group, even the pastors would come into that group. We had very open conversations. I had meetings with them. I'd sit them down one-on-one, if they felt comfortable in group sport, and we talk about what men struggle with. Well, I don't need to go into detail because you get that. And we would talk about everything they struggle with, the ups and downs, and give them a safe environment just to get off the chest. Men need an environment where they can talk, but it needs to be an environment that they feel that it's a safe environment. Otherwise, men naturally will repress their feelings. And we all know by repressing feelings, it's not healthy. So it needs to be set up in a way that they can talk, but they feel it's safe. Men who have trust issues, right?
Safety. It's key. Any thoughts from you, Paul, as we wrap up?
I think it's fascinating. I could listen to you all day. But I think what stands out for me as well is that you're describing our desire for belonging. Desire for belonging. That's great. Thank you so much.
Men have to have a purpose.
Yeah.
If you love the value, useless, right?
Yeah. That's amazing, John. I'm so sorry we're going to have to cut this short. We'll really appreciate you sticking with the tech, getting there eventually, and joining us for this conversation.
Keep following on 13th round. You'll see what I'm doing. 13th.
So give us that again. We'll make a note of it and share it. Where's the best place for people to keep?
Anyway, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, I'm everywhere. 13th and final round.
13th and final round. Brilliant. We will make sure that gets put out onto the comments of YouTube. John, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and keep up the good work. You're doing something really important.
Thank you very much. You keep up the good work too.
Thanks, John.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Take care.